Chief of Supply Chain Brain. Welcome to this special presentation inside a top Fortune 500 warehouse, what high performers do differently, presented by Berkshire Grey. Quick reminder, there will be an audience question and answer session at the end of the presentation. Audience members are encouraged to submit their questions at any time during the presentation by clicking on that Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. So retailers are facing rising complexity in fulfilling polybagged apparel for both stores and wholesale. To stay ahead, they're launching bold initiatives, automating manual warehouse processes, slashing put-to-store labor, and boosting capacity, all within their existing footprint. So in our session today, we're going to give you an inside look at the playbook that top performers are using to balance cost, service, and scalability across channels. And we'll learn how they're transforming fulfillment to keep pace with today's omnichannel demands. Quick review of what our goal today for this presentation is. We'll be learning from real operators who are solving retail fulfillment challenges with teamwork, grit, and smart execution. With that, I want to introduce our speakers for today. William Snyder is Senior Director of Operations with Under Armour. He brings more than 20 years of operational leadership across fulfillment and warehouse environments. He leads transformative initiatives that integrate automation, redefine metrics, and align culture with execution. William is a trusted advisor and builder of high-performing teams where purpose drives process and people power performance. Noah Maynard is a customer value champion at Berkshire Grey. He works closely with customers and partners to identify the most impactful use and optimal implementations for robotic fulfillment solutions. He brings more than 15 years of experience working in process improvement, warehouse operations, and supply chain automation. Noah's past works include industrial engineering, program management, and systems engineering positions at C&S Wholesale Grocers and Symbotic. So with that, I want to turn the presentation over to Will Snyder. Will, take it away.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Appreciate everyone kind of jumping in and giving me a couple minutes of your time to talk through Under Armour's most recent journey with the Berkshire Grey team. And so I'll jump straight into it. So looking at the first slide. So a couple common fulfillment challenges that distribution houses. So at Under Armour, we actually call our fulfillment centers distribution houses and not distribution centers or warehouses. And so in our distribution house area, there's a couple challenges that we face that not only are exclusive to us, but many fulfillment teams face. And we're trying to use technology to kind of overcome those things. So talk through the first one. The first one is kind of that labor shortage and high agency turnover. So if you take a look at where we're currently placed, there are multiple fulfillment centers that are all in this same area. And we're all kind of fighting for that same labor pool of teammates. And so because of that, it creates kind of a high turnover rate with our team, with the agency teammates, as well as one bullet that I have on the back end of it. There's no public transportation either. And so you'll find situations where you'll have the driver will drive 3 other teammates, may carpool with that driver, but the driver calls in and now you're kind of 4 teammates short. So that high labor turnover has been a significant issue for us. The second piece that I would talk through is just the manual inefficiencies that come from that. So when you have that high turnover piece and you're consistently training teammates, you kind of lose that resident expert in a particular task or a particular function, and it creates some additional inefficiencies with maybe some of your manual processes that exist. The third bullet there is that overall need. So this is the main point here, that overall need to increase your throughput, increase your speed, increase your overall service, while being able to handle multiple channels underneath one roof in one facility. And that last bullet is what I kind of referred to a little bit earlier with the public transportation limitations that we have. So just kind of looking at those fulfillment challenge opportunities, the labor shortages there, the inefficiencies that they can charge, as well as that drive to be able to increase the overall throughput within our current footprint are some of the key challenges that we were kind of looking to overcome. So as we transitioned into our thought process, we, as an Under Armour team, we came to the table and kind of thought, what are some of those things that we want to see from an automation solution that would allow us to efficiently process the various channels under one roof? And so a few of the things that we kind of talked through as goals are simplify the operations and increase facility capacity. So we took a look at our operations from beginning to end, from end to end. We took a look at bottlenecks. We took a look at where are some of the issues that we're having. And so then we started to think through what technological solutions exist out there that will allow us to be able to efficiently flow the building, but also do it at a little bit of a lower labor requirements, understanding the impact that the current environment has in regards to overall contingency labor. And that last piece that we really wanted to focus on was how do we increase the speed to customer? And that's kind of the name of the game right now is, the end customer ultimately wants the best price and who can get their product to them the fastest. And so as we took a look at the entire picture, we kind of looked at how do we simplify the operations, but we extend and increase capacity in our existing footprint. How do we maybe do it to be a little less dependent on contingency labor, but then how do we overall increase our speed to our overall end customer? And so I'll talk you through a couple of the things that we kind of wrote down as a recipe for success and to get the early results that we've seen so far in the sortation piece. So what we did was we've launched a project with the Berkshire Gray team with a new sortation device that was out there, and we've seen some early wins of it. And some of those early wins have come from a couple of things. I would say the first thing is project ownership across ops, IT, as well as the maintenance team. So the operations team, understanding how to work the system, understanding that when something takes place, what can we address and what do we need to escalate has been key. The IT piece of ensuring that our system is compatible with the Berkshire Gray system, and ensuring that all the inner workings in that piece is working. The maintenance team with ensuring we understand the infrastructure, we understand the parts list, we understand the PMs that are necessary and the time frames those things are necessary. Have been nice wins on this end as well, and it's been just great partnership with the team understanding those aspects. The second piece, and I would also say the third piece, add both of them, is the problem solving and just being proactive in our learning, in our learning and troubleshooting. So when we take a look at problem solving, we have a very experienced team that kind of knows the building inside and out. And so the team comes to the table with multiple different solutions and ideas. We've involved everyone from pretty much the last teammate who just came in to the teammate who has the most tenure in this process, because those are the teammates that are able to give us a huge diversity of thought. We can be able to come up with new and innovative ideas and suggestions to be able to run the building. But then what we do is once we launch a process, we'll take a look at that process. And if it works and it gives us the desired results, we'll take a look to see how can we maybe expand that even further. And if we can't, then we'll take a look at, hey, this didn't work. How do we pivot to contingency plan B? All get aligned on a communication plan, and then we move forward. So really great problem solving and being proactive and not necessarily stuck on one idea from the team as a whole. The next bucket I would say is that continuous improvement piece. Like we said, you may have a solution and that solution might actually work, but then there may be another solution that works a tad bit better, or you may have a solution and that solution didn't work. Well, now you come to the table and say, hey, what's contingency B? So I love that the team is continuously focused on how do we continue to be better and how do we continue to be better? We may break a record one day, well, the next team is coming in looking at how do we tweak that performance to be able to break the record the next day. So that focus on continuous improvement and evolving our process has also been a great recipe for success. And then I'll add both the last two bullet points. As I previously said, we have a very tenured team here, and the team knows the building from the front end to the back end, inside and out. And so we've leveraged our hourly teammates, we've leveraged our leaders, we've leveraged everyone from the top down to the bottom up to ultimately come to the table with ideas, suggestions, and how do we continue to maximize or stress the system and continuously move the sortation device forward in a positive manner. And those have definitely been some early on significant wins for us. So now, as I transition into kind of what those early results look like, hitting the first point. So we have seen an increased throughput with our current headcount, and that's been a win because that's one of the overall goals with the sortation device itself. We've improved our units per hour on the raw side. So the raw goal is all inclusive. It includes downtime, it includes availability, it includes every aspect that comes within the teammates' working period. And we've seen a steadily increase month for month in our overall units per hour on the raw side, which has been a really nice win there. The next two buckets is that consolidated workflow with high throughput, as well as the handling of the non-cube waves at a high rate. These two go hand in hand, and they've been imperative in allowing us to efficiently run the building, but it's been imperative also in allowing us to efficiently run multiple channels at the same time and ensuring that our queues upstream and downstream are at an applicable level to where the team can continuously perform and we don't necessarily have to move people around. So those have been some really good wins there as well. And a key piece on it is we're still in the early phases of it. So as nice as it is to see the early wins that have been taking place, we still have room to optimize and still have room to become better. And we're definitely looking forward to seeing as the next couple months as we continue to evolve this system. So this last slide that I will kind of cover, the title really says it all. It's a partnership. It's not a system handoff. And so what I mean by that is the first bullet, it's not a handoff, but it's that long-term partnership. So once we click the go live, the switch to go on, the Berkshire Grey team has been hand in hand with us through this entire process. When we've had different calls, the customer service team, the team has been readily available. And there's also a meeting we have meetings that take place where we analyze the inputs and we take a look at the outputs to see, does anything need to be tweaked? We take a look at wave size. We take a look at sub wave sizes. We're identifying what are those things that are winning and what are those things that may be causing us to not win as fast, but it's a collective partnership. The BG team is also sending us data to say, hey, did you see this or did you see that? So the partnership that's taking place has definitely has definitely played hand in hand into these early wins that we've seen so far. The second piece is working together. That positive culture drives success. So I can say early on, when we first launched this project, I'm a firm believer in just the overall communication piece and ensuring that everyone is well informed. And so when we first launched into this project, we pulled the team together. We walked everyone through why we were doing it, what we were trying to accomplish, what is the impact on the building, but we also walked them through what is the impact on them and as teammates within the facility as well. So we increased communication as much as we possibly could to get everyone looped into what was the objective, what was the overall goal, and that positive culture ultimately drove, a lot of the early wins that we have seen so far. You don't need to move mountains to get help. And I firmly believe this. When you take a look at your team and you take a look at the potential of your team, the knowledge of your team, the education of your team in regards to the operations as a whole, a lot of times you can kind of bring your team together, brainstorm on some different ideas and suggestions of how to remove specific bottlenecks, and then create a plan and move forward together. And I think that is that's a great aspect of this particular project. We pretty much came together and we didn't have to kind of move a mountain in order to start getting some incremental results to take place. I think this is a key piece. This is a key bucket when you're looking at, automative solutions and, who those vendors are that you may ultimately, decide to go with. Both sides need to be responsive and aligned, but both sides also need to be in agreement on what the ultimate end goal is and what the system's capabilities are as well. And that's been a really nice win for us as we've kind of led through this sortation project as well. And that last bullet point, automation isn't magic. It's a tool made effective by teams who take ownership. And that kind of goes back into kind of some of the verbiage I was talking through a little bit earlier. You turn the switch on, and just because you turn the switch on does not necessarily mean that everything's going to work as designed. That's where you have to have your data points. You have to analyze what's going into the system, what's coming out of the system. Is what's going into the system what you designed the system for? Is it meeting those expectations? You have to continuously look at how do you improve and involve even the technological advancement to help to drive the overall efficiency and throughput of your overall operations. And so what I would say is just kind of looking at the last couple slides that I've talked through, we came into this project trying to find a way to increase capacity in our existing footprint by using a little less contingency labor on that end and also improve our overall speed to customer. We uh, got into a project with the Berkshire Grey team, and we were able to align on different initiatives. We were able to align on different KPIs, different goals, and we were able to come together as a team and make it a collaborative win. We've seen some early wins, some early signs of successes. Still have a little bit of ways to go to continue to optimize the system, but look forward to seeing the continued success of the new sortation system that we have through the overall solid partnership and collaboration with the Berkshire Grey team. And now I'll pass it back to
Thank
you,
you
Bob.
very much, Will, for that really interesting presentation. Bringing in Noah Maynard, also from Berkshire Grey now, for the panel discussion portion of our presentation, in which I have the privilege of asking both of you some additional questions to bring out the points you want to make about this very innovative strategy that Under Armour has undertaken in its distribution operation. Okay, Will, we know transformation is hard, and sustaining momentum can be even harder. We're talking about people here, which is probably, subject number one. How do you keep your team engaged along the way?
Well, taking a look at how do you keep the team engaged, you've heard me mention communication, communication, communication. And I am a huge advocate of communicating to the team, the good, the bad, as well as the ugly. So I think two key pieces that we utilized in the strategy was, like I said, the teammate who was the last in from the teammate who has the most experience. We communicated with everyone about the project as a whole. This was the objective. This is what we aim to solve. This is the impact on the building. This is the impact on the individual. And we built that momentum with the team before we even started to put up any infrastructure. And so once we actually went live with it, the team was already engaged. We already had a high level of engagement with the team in regards to the project itself. Well, once the project went live, we started to talk to the teammates about the wins that was out there and how do we expand on those. But we also pulled them in and got their feedback on some of the opportunities that were out there and sought their ideas on suggestions and ways to be able to improve those things. And so then we would go out and we would recognize those teammates or those particular teams to the building as a whole. Just recognize the great effort that they put forth towards making the project a success and us getting kind of those incremental wins. And speaking of the incremental wins, I would say the last piece of it is we set goals, but we celebrated the incremental wins as we are accomplishing them along the way. And so it's the teammates seeing the recognition piece as well as them being communicated to with every piece of the project that we're executing, as well as celebrating with the team, has gone a long way in regards to keeping the team engaged.
Good advice.
I would say for our part at Berkshire Grey, a key way that we build momentum is we really focus on our customers' value. That's a big way that we build momentum internally. And so if you come to our innovation center, you see we've got customer first. We put metrics every day on our big screens in our cafeteria talking about customer health. So we're very oriented, our whole organization is oriented towards this. But I would just say that from a partnership perspective, the fact that we're so oriented towards customer value, when we demonstrate that to the customer, in this case, Under Armour, that gets them even more excited. So there's a virtuous circle that kind of builds of our focus on value, our engagement. We see even more engagement from our customers, and that really creates a positive work environment that gets to great outcomes.
Great. Thanks to both of you for that. I mean, it's just funny how every discussion about automation always ends up talking about people out of necessity, but it's great,
Right.
great response. Okay, Will, so you have achieved a significant boost, as you tell us, in throughput without growing headcount. What made possible that performance lift, and what did your team teach you in the process?
Uh, Well, I would agree. Month over month for the past several months, we've seen throughput increases. And it's been through a combination of a couple factors. I would say, we took a look at like I said, we took a look at the building from the beginning to the end. We mapped out every single touch point. We identified unnecessary steps, bottlenecks, redundancies, and we tried to remove those pieces, right? And so then we took that and we implemented the system and tried to see how do we become more effective with our existing system capabilities as well as the processes that we have in place. And so just being able to observe the building from the beginning to the end, put this new solution in, see what impacts that it had, and then course correct on additional bottlenecks have been some very huge early on wins. We also have the post check meetings. And in those post check meetings, that's when we, observe different KPIs, different data points. We take a look at, is the system working as designed? And we have a lot of that dialogue to take place to ensure that, we're navigating through the system, we're teaching the team the capabilities of the system, and we're reducing those redundancies. So those have kind of been some of the performance lifts, just being able to observe the system, remove redundancies, and maximize the systems to its full capabilities. What has the team taught me? I would say the team definitely taught and validated some things for me. They validated that, celebrating those incremental wins is a huge piece. And being able to give the team the opportunity to speak has definitely helped us to kind of identify some blind spots, create some smarter ideas, some smarter suggestions that the team was able to come to the table with. One of the things they taught me, what I think is pretty cool, is that, the team thrives on that clarity and autonomy. So, just being able to go out there and give the team clear goals of what we want to accomplish, and seeing so many leaders and so many leaders of the team kind of step up and do things that I had not fully anticipated them to do was a huge win. And it made me extremely proud of the team we have on hand.
Wow.
Yeah, I think from my part, from the Berkshire Gray side, the unlocks here, and this echoes a lot of what Will said, but um, to me, this is a great instance of what happens when technology meets a team that's absolutely ready to own it. So the real unlock wasn't just the hardware. It was about tuning and continuous improvement, the things that Will's talking about. And sure, software plays their part in enabling some of these things, but at the end of the day, a differentiator for me on this project was customer wanting to own the outcomes and optimize the system that they really took a lot of pride in and saw a lot of value from. For me, so that's the ownership, that's the clarity, but it's also building champions on the customer side who can really, dig into this. And again, they own that performance. And I think Will's team overall in our experience at Berkshire Gray has been a great force multiplier on this joint initiative. It's really had a, 1+1 = 3 effect where, from our view, what we've brought to the table, what Will's brought to the table, they're better than the sum of their parts. So we're really pleased with how we've collaborated on these initiatives.
Interesting how it's a circular thing. Like a team won't step up unless they feel like they are being included in the operation. Then they will give back to you that gift of involvement if they understand that you value them. So that's really good. Some good points. Okay, Will, so you brought multiple fulfillment streams under one roof, which in today's world of omnichannel is absolutely essential. What were the biggest challenges in doing that? And what advice would you give others considering a similar shift?
Biggest challenges. I highlight a few. I would say one, space and flow. When you're bringing new channels into a distribution house, you have to look at your physical space to make sure that, you can accommodate the different picking methods, the different packing standards, the different storage needs that are out there. So definitely looking at the space and flow and reengineering the DH was one. I would say channel integration was actually another one. When you take a look at what I mean by channel integration is each channel kind of has its own rhythm and flow, rhythm and expectation piece. And so being able to include those in your current channel mix can sometimes be difficult. But I think we have a really solid team in place that was able to kind of really dissect some data. And we're still in the process of kind of reshaping some of those things, but we've seen, like I said earlier, some early wins. And then just the peak season as well. Sometimes you have different streams that have different peak seasons, different seasonalities. And so it's just ensuring that, forecasting is correct. Your labor planning models are correct to ensure that you're properly staffed to still meet that end goal of getting that unit to the consumer as quick as we possibly can. I would say advice for others making a shift. I would say map your processes out from beginning to end. Being able to understand where your bottlenecks at is absolutely huge. I would say bring in your key players early on. Don't limit it to just your leadership team, but bring in your hourly team, the experts that know the processes inside and out. Bring them in early because not only are you going to generate new and innovative ideas, you're also going to motivate the team that they're being included in these different aspects of this project. I would also say invest in your training and your onboarding because that is going to be key to your long-term success of maximizing a system. And the last thing I would say is just celebrate the wins. Celebrating those wins along the path just continue to build momentum, build engagement, and it builds a sense of kind of commitment versus compliance to the team in regards to the overall success of the project.
Noah, with all of your engagements, you must by now have a kind of got this sense of what are the challenges that emerge, the common challenges that emerge among your partners, and what would you say those would be, and your advice for others looking to do this.
Yeah, I think so. I totally echo and agree with what Will said. And I'm thinking about design here. And when I'm thinking about design, I agree that Will, lay out what you do today, have good clarity on that because that's the platform you're going to move forward from. But my challenge, my message is don't design just around what you do today. You should dream of what's possible, right? And just because you've got a process and a flow today, it doesn't mean that you can't, reinvent yourself and do that in a very different way in the future. So have some bravery, I guess, and have some willingness to take on some really tough challenges because hopefully you can find some technology that can solve the complexity of doing more than you thought, and a partner who can be with you on that journey, give you room to adapt and evolve over time, based on those strong foundations.
Well, again, Noah, in your extensive experience across multiple engagements, how do you recommend that operations measure success when it's more than just a matter of units per hour, UPH or labor savings?
UPH and labor savings, I mean, those are everyone talks about those, right? That's kind of table stakes for a lot of things. And we certainly look at those, and our customers have great anecdotes around, really growing their productivity, 3, 4x. But I would want to highlight that, for us to go beyond that in terms of how you measure success, um, capacity and trust in the system and showing, like seeing our customers trust the technology that we've deployed, that's success for us. So, for example, like last year at peak, we processed like over 100 million units for our customers. We love that number. But we also love that our support cases are always managed down. So we're doing all this work for our customers, adding all this value, and we're doing it in a quality way. We view our job as being a partner for growth. If our customers don't trust our system, if our customers don't use our system, there's an issue. They see risk, and that is unacceptable. We haven't done our job until our customers feel, in terms of the value of the system, that they're using it, that they have comfort in it. So, um, I
Yeah.
think we have nice anecdotes. So that's a big piece of it is use of the system, trust of the system, quality outputs. There's also other anecdotes that we really like customers with operators that stay longer in their position than they had planned to, for improving retention. We have customers with DCs in their networks being named DC of the year, and that's a great anecdote, and we love that. So that to me is also obviously a measure of success, and we feel good about that. So traditional metrics are great, UPH and productivity, but reliability, utilization, and sure, getting named distribution center of the house, excuse me, distribution center of the year awards. Those are the ultimate prize.
Well, what's your attitude or your approach to metrics that go beyond UPH and labor?
Yeah, I would agree with what Noah said, but there's also kind of some other metrics out there that you can kind of take a look at. You could take a look at your quality performance. Has that improved or not? You could take a look at your SLAs. Do you have volume that's arriving on time? And are you meeting your service level agreement? But there's also a couple other things. How's your employee engagement and retention? Are they embracing the new technology and the new change? And then another piece is your output being sustained consistently throughout that time frame? So, although UPH, there's definitely UPH and labor savings are definitely the big hitters. There's definitely other metrics out there that you look to make sure that the project as a whole has been valuable.
Okay, Noah, for others who are watching this right now and yet might be earlier in their journey, where exactly should they be focusing first?
I would say focus on pain points. That's an obvious thing, but technology exists. We do these projects to mitigate pain points. But then I think what's important is to, and I kind of hit on this a little bit before, is so when you identify those pain points, you think about the problems that you want to solve, really think about how big you can go. Think about how flexible you can be. Don't just look for point, replacements or point solutions. Like if you could dream up a solution, what would that look like in terms of the value that you see? And go broad with what you can do. And so like we have different customers who sort eyeliner pencils and dog beds into the same shipping containers and send them out. And they never knew that they could do that when they started this automation journey. So this is my encouragement to really think broadly around the realm of the possible. And I think you should also when you're starting out focus on choosing partners that can work in your environment today. I mean, certainly greenfield projects are not uncommon, but there's a lot of people with existing assets that they're trying to do more with. And speaking for us, we get excited about those brownfield projects. We get excited about letting folks do more with what they already have, amplifying their value. And we really view ourselves, as a partner and an enabler for those kinds of things. Like, WMS challenge, big WMS implementations can be time consuming, can be costly. And so we really try to be a partner and mitigate those wherever we can, mitigate that scope so that, it's as easy as it's as easy to adopt the technology as possible. And then also you get to that value picture as fast as you can. So, starting out, I think, focus on pain points, think broadly, and then also, look for strong partners who can deliver into your existing environments.
Well, Will, when you undertook this initiative in the first place, what was your first step?
Noah hit it. It's understanding the flow of your building, understanding the
Mm.
flow of the product from point A to point B and all the way from beginning to end. That was step number one. Step number two is just developing trust within the team, walking the floor, talking with the team, asking questions, being able to listen more than I spoke to the team. I think that goes a long way in building that kind of trust culture. And I think lastly, I would say, getting your hands dirty, getting out there, getting alongside the team in functions, being able to have them see you in functions as well, all kind of builds more positive momentum when you're about to launch a journey such as this.
It'd be great if a warehouse or a distribution system worked as in kind of a steady state where it just was the same all the time. Unfortunately, reality intrudes. So, Will, when volume surges, obvious as it is want to do from time to time, how do you keep everything flowing across channels, teams, systems? How do you do that?
Yeah. I think the key piece of that is what I'll consistently say, it's just a communication piece. When you get different spikes in volumes, and to your point, that always takes place where, your volume spikes, you have to ensure your leaders from the different work streams are all looped into kind of the current scenario, but also the plan to address the volumes that are there. You utilize those startup meetings to make sure, those startup cadences to make sure that everyone is synced, that any bottlenecks are flagged, we course correct immediately. But if at any time something happens to the plan, you have to make sure that everyone's looped in on what took place and what impact that has on a specific channel. And so we have, these startup meetings where we talk through channel mixes, we talk through the labor pools, we talk through the inventory levels. And so being able to collectively as a unit talk through the different channel mixes, what is priority at the different times, and how do we flow the building to be able to maximize our outbound volume with the channel mix that we have is huge. So I think the communication piece overall is the biggest piece of allowing everyone to know where you're at and what is the impact that the decisions and the performance that is having.
I'm starting to sense a theme here, Will. I'm hearing that the communication is so important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Noah, you must experience constantly among your various customers and engagements, volumes going up and down. When it surges, what do you think? How do you think that can be managed?
Yeah, I think Will hit the biggest thing, which is that a team with communication, willing on to take on those challenges, be dynamic is table stakes. But from a technology point of view, for us, I think you probably expect this answer. It's for us flexible software. So the ability to enable those teams with their collaboration, with their communication, to make changes on the fly, mid shift, mid week, whenever they needed to. Software, can provide a lot of flexibility to work different work streams, to handle different mixes, to handle surprises, hot orders, all these kinds of things. So, software, the technology answer is software can help that enable flexibility for operations. And then it can also improve, utilization of the asset and improve your, return on investment over time. And doing all this, I said this before too, but in a brownfield where there's existing flows, doing this without a lot of invasive WMS changes, we like to think that that's a big differentiator to enable that kind of flexibility that we're talking about.
Yeah, and as you say, Noah, brownfield is more often than not the situation you find yourself in. We don't have the luxury of building these distribution centers from the ground up that often. Okay, Will, so how quickly did you actually start seeing impact from this initiative, and how did you use any early learnings that came in to accelerate your results?
Yeah. Well, within weeks, we started to see improvements with the team's responsiveness and just their overall comfort level with the system, and that built an even higher level of engagement as the team kind of started getting used to the system, and things would take place, and the team would course correct on their own without having to escalate. We would high five them, building increased momentum, and so as each month continues, like I said, we've had continuous month over month improvements in our overall throughput, and we expect to kind of see those same results as we continue to move forward. What I would say with the early learnings is we kind of doubled down on the things that worked at first. So if we tried a piloted a process and we were able to win with it, then okay, let's push that process to see how we go further. But at the same time, if something didn't go well, we pulled the team together and we talked about it. We made sure that the documentation and the learnings were shared across all shifts, across the DH as a whole. But we also did different pilot programs, like we would identify certain bottlenecks or certain thresholds and say, hey, let's do a small experiment with this and see how it works. And if it worked, high five, great job. Let's continue to drive that and see how we utilize it more. And if it didn't work, it was a, hey, great job. At least we tried something to see how we maximize the system. And so those pilots definitely played a long way and continue to play a long way in the results that we're getting. And then that last piece I would say is we adjusted fast. So when something did not work as designed, we came together as a group. We analyzed the data. If the data says that it does not make sense to continue to move in this direction, then we pivoted and we course corrected to what the next contingency was. So just being able to double down on those early wins, have those pilots that we put in place, but then when something didn't work, adjust it quick, definitely helped to accelerate some of the results.
Yeah, Noah, you're always going to have the executive suite cracking the whip on ROI to get results as quickly as possible. So how fast do we start seeing, typically how fast do you start seeing that impact?
I think we see value from our deployments from day one, as kind of as Will alluded to. But at Berkshire Grey, I would just say that one thing that we think makes us different is that we don't view that as our job being done. We want to be continued partners as the operations teams gets enabled, as the operations team learns the system, tunes the system. We want to be there alongside them in that journey so that they, not only get to their ROI as fast as possible, but if there's more opportunity to get even more value, all the better. Customer first is a focus of ours. So, and it goes back to what we said, which is, at the end of the day, our goal is to have our customers own championed equipment and see what they can do. And we're often surprised just how effective they can be, when the right team gets involved, like Will's.
Yeah, well, you've told us indeed that you have seen an increased throughput in your operation. And you've also said that it didn't require a huge increase or an increase at all, really, in terms of body count. But I'm still wondering what all that meant operationally, in terms of people, in terms of processes, in terms of fine-tuning the flow in your facility. Can you address that?
Well, on the people side, it definitely helped to elevate our overall culture because the team saw the leadership team out there as well. They saw us out there on the stations. They saw us brainstorming. It was a collaborative effort. So it definitely elevated the positivity of our culture, and it enabled us to kind of do some coaching real time on the floor, give the teammates different ideas of different things that was taking place and different suggestions on how we can be even more efficient with the system we put in. And it also gave us the chance to give positive reinforcement. Those teammates who were embracing it and coming up with different ideas and suggestions fast, we were able to recognize those teammates. So we kind of were able to take it from a people side and use it as a cultural enhancement in a sense. Now, on the process side, we took a look at all of our SOPs. And like I said, we took a look at the operations from beginning to the end. And we even identified a couple of things within our operations that we needed to fine tune as well. So that fine tuning flow piece went hand in hand with the processing piece because it gave us the opportunity opportunity to look at each specific department, see how are we feeding the new system? Is there any impact, bottlenecks, opportunities that's causing us to not do that, and then go to the drawing board. So from a fine tuning piece, it was definitely a win there because it allowed us to really dissect the operations as a whole, identify maybe another process or two that we had not maybe readily noticed in the past, course correct, and now we're able to maximize the system even better.
At this point, I'd like to bring the audience into the conversation. We have indeed, we do have time for an audience question and answer session right now. And even as we are answering some of the questions that have already come in, we do invite the audience to continue to post your questions by clicking on that Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen, and we'll get to as many of your questions as we can, time permitting. So it looks like this might be a question for Noah. It says, the question is this: we've already deployed automation. How do we know if we're actually getting everything we can out of it?
I think a good barometer for that is a cultural check. Like if you look at your folks using the systems, using the automation, take a hard look at, are they uh, are they working with the technology, or are they working around the technology? If the technology is just seen as a part of their job, they've probably got some more work to do to really get the value that you need out of it. But if you see a customer that's hitting their stride, they look at something, they say, "Hey, why is this way? Give me another metric that gives me more insights on this." That's an engaged team that really is going to get the most out of the systems that they can. So, just focusing on how your team, this is again the theme, how your team really embraces the technology and take a hard look at that. That to me is a really good first indication of if you're getting the most that you can out of a system.
And Will, you gave us a great example of how you manage that. I think you mentioned the word communication about a dozen times, but I
Yep,
think that has
communication is that key.
something to do with it.
Yes,
Okay.
communication is definitely that key. But
Yeah.
even on that end, if a couple other things that we look to see if the automation is actually being successful is, we're looking at the labor. We're looking at, are we able to reallocate our labor to optimize the process, or are we now having to just move that labor elsewhere? And now we're seeing the increase in throughput, but at the same time, we're still adding labor. So is the reallocation of the labor being optimized? That's one piece we're looking at. Your exceptions rates is, are you seeing an increase in your overall quality because your human touches are now starting to decrease? Are the systems being able to integrate seamlessly with the new system versus the previous systems that you've already had? And so it's all of those things, all inclusive, kind of give you the idea of, if you're being successful or not with that automation.
This question says, how do you go from automated to optimized, especially in brownfield or complex multi-channel facilities? The implication here is that we're not just flipping a switch and everything's automatically optimized. Noah, how do you do that?
I think my answer here is probably similar to my last one, which is, when the operations team really owns the outcomes, they've got strong partnerships, with the providers. There's opportunities for amazing collaboration. I would add, though, addition to what I said last time, is that this happens in waves. This happens continuously. This is not a one and done, engagement. Hopefully, with continuous improvement and continuous empowerment, you can get beyond even what you envisioned when you first, sketched this on a whiteboard in a distribution center walkthrough. So, similar answer: collaboration is key, and that's how you know that you're really getting from automated to optimized.
This question is kind of asking us to elaborate on something we have touched on before, but let's hear what Will has to say about that. It says, we've got leadership buy-in, but how do we get deeper ownership from the floor?
I think you have to make it a fabric you have to make it a part of your culture. You have to embed it within your culture. So you have to shift. So take a look at the team's input and, make it not a my way, but make it a our way. Hold those structured sessions of, kind of how we can collaborate and use that diversity of thought from the different levels of experience that we have to make kind of that playbook a part of the fabric. I think you create that trust environment, that trust culture amongst your team to let the team know that, hey, good, bad, or indifferent, you're going to be honest with them and let them know the good, the bad, and the ugly with that piece. And that's how you gain more buy-in. But I think overall, you have to be visible and you have to be personal with the team. So if you launch a project and you have it going out there, but the team never sees you, the team never sees you champion it, the team never sees you asking their opinion on it. Well, you're not going to get the level of buy-in that you want. But being able to be personable, visible, talking to the team, asking them their concerns, asking them their questions, it kind of helps different teammates and different leaders to kind of get through the change curve just a tad bit faster.
I just
No.
want to say, I work with a lot of customers. I want to just give my compliments to Will and the Under Armour team. How they engage their operating teams, I think is a blueprint for success and engagement. I think that's a great part of our shared story.
Well, it's so easy for an initiative to be undermined if you don't have that support at the floor
Right.
level. Very little you can do about it if you haven't proactively set out to ensure that's the case, as indeed you did, Will. Great question here, Will. What do you wish someone had told you at the start of this journey?
uh, I will say that being in a room, it's not always my idea. That's the idea we go with. It's not always, hey, do it this way. That's what you bring a collective group of minds together for, so that you can come up kind of with the best idea. And so I think that's one. I think being able to understand kind of your legacy process and some teammates' commitments to that legacy process is key as well, because now you're moving to a new process, but the team is used to the legacy process. So being able to just establish your communication and how you talk to the team about moving from one process to the next, but doing that early on is definitely key, because if you wait until maybe some of the limitations or the obstacles start to take place and then you try to get the team on board, you may be too late on that end. And I would say, like I said before, visibility is key. Just being able to be out there with the team, be in the trenches, let them see you going through what they're going through as you're trying to navigate through the pros and cons of a particular implementation is extremely huge. So I would encourage them to be visible, be mindful of the previous process and what you're kind of migrating to, but then also give the resident experts a voice in the room, and that'll help you to unlock so many different gains.
Right. So speaks the voice of experience. Thank you so much for that, Will. So, hey, this has been a fantastic presentation from both of you. I really appreciate your insights, and we've learned a lot in this last hour, but unfortunately, we are just about out of time. We have time for one final question. I'm going to start with Will on this one.
Okay.
And here it is. For those who are still hesitating on automation, what's the cost of doing nothing?
What's the cost of doing nothing? I would say hesitating could potentially put you in a position where some of your competitors are able to get that product to the end user at a faster pace and at a lower cost. So it could potentially cause you to lose some market share, as well as the end consumer kind of feeling as though they can get the product faster from somewhere else. So I think it's definitely a win to consistently focus on evolving your overall processes to allow yourself to have a better chance at long-term success.
Noah, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think the cost of doing nothing is you end up, building around your constraints, building processes around your constraints instead of what you could possibly do in the future. You're stuck in a firefighting mode, and that can be painful for a lot of customers, particularly at peak, where best case scenario, if you don't have enough capacity at peak, it's expensive, and worst case, you lose customer service. There's customer service impact, like Will said. So I think automation, gives you room to win and grow and do more. So you should look for those solutions, flexible solutions, and I think there's no better day to start looking for those solutions than today.
Well, great. Thanks to both of you for that great information, and thanks to our audience for your participation. Any questions we did not get to because of time restrictions, I'm sure our experts would be only too happy to answer them offline. But in the meantime, we have an asset here for all of you attendees. If you'd like to learn more about what you saw and heard today, here is some valuable information for you on the latest evolution in omnichannel fulfillment. There's a QR code for you to take a shot of, but if you don't have time in these final few seconds, don't worry about it. This will be sent to all attendees of this webinar upon its conclusion, which unfortunately, again, is right now. Thanks again, Will. Thank you, Noah. Thank you, audience, as well. Everybody, Have a fantastic day.